Right now, somewhere in your head, there's a version of you that already quit. He's watching. He's sitting in the dark corner of your mind, arms crossed, waiting for you to prove him right. He's been waiting for years. And every single time you almost walked away, from the gym, from the goal, from the grind nobody claps for, he smiled a little wider. Because he knows something you're still refusing to accept. Quitting isn't a moment. It's a habit you're building one excuse at a time. Listen to me carefully. You were not born to be forgettable. You were built, engineered by every rejection, every betrayal, every night you cried without letting anyone hear it, to become something they can't explain. But right now, you're still deciding. Are you going to be the man they talk about in 10 years? Or the man they forgot existed? Let's rewind. There was a version of you, younger, hungrier, unscarred, who believed the world was fair. He believed hard work got noticed. He believed loyalty got returned. He believed if he just kept his head down and did the right thing, someone, somewhere, would finally see him. That version of you got destroyed, not with a bullet, not with a knife, with silence, with being passed over, with being laughed at behind closed doors, with watching people who did less get more, simply because they knew how to perform, while you knew how to work. And here's the part nobody tells you. That destruction was the best thing that ever happened to you. Because comfortable people don't build empires. Comfortable people don't turn pain into fuel. Comfortable people stay exactly where they are, nodding, smiling, dying slowly in a life they never chose. You were forced into a different path. The path where you stop asking for permission. The path where you stop explaining yourself to people who never earned the right to understand you. Somewhere along the way, maybe you don't even remember the exact day, something in you went cold, not heartless, cold like steel. Cold like a blade that's been through fire so many times it doesn't bend anymore. You stopped announcing your plans. You stopped posting your goals for validation. You stopped waiting for applause that was never coming. And in that silence, you started building something they couldn't see. Something they couldn't stop. Something they couldn't even comprehend. Because they were too busy talking to notice you had already left the conversation. This is where most people break. Right here. Right in this exact moment. The moment where the results haven't shown up yet, but the sacrifice already has. You've put in the work. You've skipped the party. You've woken up at 5 while they were still asleep at noon. You've said no to comfort food, no to lazy nights, no to relationships that drained more than they gave. And what do you have to show for it? Nothing. Yet, that word, yet, is the most dangerous word in the human language. Because it's the difference between the ones who make it and the ones who almost did. Right now, somewhere, there's a version of you in an alternate timeline who gave up 3 weeks ago. He convinced himself it wasn't worth it. He told himself he'd start again, next Monday. He's still telling himself that. He'll keep telling himself that until his hair goes gray and his dreams turn into stories he tells at parties to sound interesting. You are not him. You refuse to be him. Every rep you don't skip, every hour you don't waste, every moment you choose discipline over dopamine, you're erasing him. You're making sure that version of you never gets to exist. Let me tell you something about pain. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is the deposit you make into a future you can't see yet. Every time your body screamed to stop, and you didn't, every time your mind begged for comfort and you denied it, you were making a withdrawal against weakness and a deposit into power. That's not motivation talk. That's mathematics. Discipline compounds exactly like money, silently, slowly, until one day the interest is so massive it changes your entire life in a single moment, and everyone around you calls it luck. They will call it luck. They always do. Because acknowledging it as work would mean admitting they could have done it too, if they hadn't quit. Let them call it luck. Let them underestimate the years you spent in rooms alone, sweating, failing, adjusting, failing again. Let them believe it was easy. Their ignorance is your camouflage. While they were laughing at what looked like nothing, you were becoming something they'd eventually need to explain. Now here's where it gets dangerous. Because success, real success, the kind built in silence, doesn't just change your bank account. It changes your relationships. And not in the way you'd expect. Some people are going to disappear. Not because you changed for the worse, but because your growth exposed a mirror they weren't ready to look into. Friends who mocked your discipline will suddenly go quiet when they see your results. Family who told you to be realistic will suddenly start asking for advice. People who never believed in the vision will suddenly want front row seats to the outcome. And you will have a choice that defines whether all this pain actually meant something or whether you let it slip through your fingers because you got soft the second things got easier. Do not get soft. Comfort kills more dreams than failure ever will. Failure teaches you. Comfort seduces you into forgetting the lesson. The moment you start relaxing, the moment you start believing you've made it, is the exact moment the version of you that gave up starts smiling again. He's patient. He's been waiting this whole time for a crack in your armor. Don't give him one. Let's talk about the loneliness. Because nobody prepares you for this part. The higher you climb, the smaller your circle gets. Not because you're pushing people away, but because most people were never built for altitude. They get dizzy at heights you're comfortable in. They panic when the air gets thin, when the sacrifices get bigger, when the doubts get louder, when the pressure feels like it's crushing your ribs from the inside. You will feel isolated. You will feel like nobody understands the war happening in your head while you smile in public and function like everything's fine. That isolation is not a punishment. It's a filter. It's removing everyone who was only there for the version of you that played small. The people who stay. The real ones. They're not staying because it's easy. They're staying because they see something in you worth waiting for. Protect those people. But don't build your identity around needing them. Because at the end of the day, this walk, this brutal, unglamorous, thankless walk toward the person you're capable of becoming, you're doing it alone. And that's not a tragedy. That's the price of becoming undeniable. Let's go deeper. Let's talk about revenge. Not the kind that ends in destruction. The kind that ends in evolution. Every person who doubted you, every voice that said you weren't enough, weren't smart enough, weren't disciplined enough, weren't built for this. They didn't break you. They activated you. Somewhere inside you, a switch flipped the day someone counted you out. And instead of proving them right by disappearing quietly, you decided to become the loudest silence they'd ever witnessed. You didn't argue. You didn't beg them to believe in you. You just kept working, kept showing up, kept becoming, one invisible rep, one invisible hour, one invisible sacrifice at a time, until one day they looked up and you were gone. Not gone as in disappeared, gone as in ahead, so far ahead they couldn't recognize you anymore. That's the only revenge worth chasing. The kind where you don't have to say a single word, because your entire existence becomes the argument. Now I need you to understand something critical. This transformation, it doesn't happen in one dramatic moment like the movies show you. There's no single sunrise where everything clicks and the music swells and you become a different person overnight. It happens in the boring moments. It happens in the 4 a.m. alarm you almost didn't answer. It happens in the meal you didn't eat because it wasn't part of the plan. It happens in the phone call you didn't make because it would have dragged you back into a life you're trying to outgrow. It happens in silence, in repetition, in 1,000 tiny decisions nobody will ever see or applaud. And that's exactly why most people never make it. Because humans are addicted to recognition. We want the trophy before we've built the muscle. We want the applause before the work. We want the result to arrive faster than the sacrifice required to earn it. You have to break that addiction. You have to fall in love with the invisible hours, the ones nobody claps for. The ones that build the foundation everyone else will later call overnight success. There is no overnight. There's only the version of you that showed up when it was hard, and the version of you that didn't. Right now, in this exact second, you are being tested. Not by some external force, by yourself. The version of you sitting in the dark corner, the one who quit. He's testing whether you're actually different, or whether you're just talking a big game until the resistance gets uncomfortable again. Prove him wrong, not with words, with consistency so relentless it becomes terrifying to everyone who ever underestimated you. Let me tell you what's coming if you stay on this path. There's a version of your life, not far from now, where the same people who whispered about your failures are going to be studying your success like it's a blueprint. There's a version of your life where the isolation you feel right now becomes the story you tell about how you built everything from nothing. There's a version of your life where the pain you're carrying right now, the pain you think is breaking you, becomes the exact reason someone else survives their darkest year, because they saw you survive yours. But none of that happens if you stop now. None of that happens if you let the comfortable version of you win this fight. So here's your only job: not to be perfect, not to be motivated every single day, not to feel like a warrior every time you wake up. Your only job is to outlast the version of you that wants to quit. Every single day, one more day than him, one more rep than him, one more hour of work than him. That's it. That's the entire war. You don't need a master plan. You don't need certainty. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You need to survive today without becoming him. And tomorrow you do it again. And the day after that, until one day, you look back, and the person staring at you in the mirror is unrecognizable to the one who almost gave up. They said you wouldn't make it. They said you were too soft, too late, too ordinary. Let them keep talking. Because while they were busy writing you off, you were becoming the one thing they never expected. Undeniable, unshakable, impossible to ignore. So look at that version of you in the corner. The one who's still watching. The one who's still waiting for you to break. Tell him it's over. Tell him you're done negotiating with weakness. Tell him the next chapter doesn't have room for him. And then get up and prove it.